Hi, I'm Dave Robinson, and welcome to another screencast where I'll be using R and RStudio to analyze data I've never seen before. As usual, this data comes from the Tidy Tuesday project, an amazing weekly data project in R from the R for Data Science online learning community. So I'm I'm especially excited to be doing this live because you can comment, and I've actually got the comments open in another window. So if as you see my analysis you have questions about what I'm doing, or especially if you have ideas for other analyses or other graphs, feel free to throw them in. I may or may not respond to them live, but I definitely like hearing and read them, enjoy hearing from you. And yeah, really excited to do this analysis as a group. So let's see what we have this week. So this week is a show called Ninja Warrior. I don't think I've seen this show. I think I've seen another show. No, this one I think I've seen like a couple YouTube clips from. It's an obstacle. It's a TV series. It's an obstacle course based based on a Japanese show where competitors try to complete a series of obstacle courses in increasing difficulty in hopes of advancing to the national finals. So the story here is that here if I shows some of the challenges people go through. Oh wow, there's like all these stages there, and then this looks like so examples of the kinds of things people run into, like a salmon ladder where they have to like lift, like basically jump step after step, bringing that pole up. Yeah, it's like a series. It's like a series of like challenging obstacles done by like bodybuilders and weightlifters and such. So it looks definitely interested to see what we're going to learn from this data. So the way that I tend to do this is I do Tidy Tuesday, use Tidy template for today, and I do these, and then I do theme set, theme light, and also library scales. And I see, okay, here's the data. All right, I'm in an RMD, and yeah, we're ready to get going. First thing is I'm usually going to, if there's only one data set, I'm going to pull it out. I don't think I need any cleaning here, so I'm going to save this as Ninja Warrior. We have 889 observations. Information on like the season, the location, the round. Okay, let's see. We have an order. I don't see. Yeah, so one thing is I don't see any information here that's like what the results of them are. So normally what I would expect is something like, so I can do a couple of searches. Let me see, I can do a couple sort location. Okay, and like I think the nationals are in Vegas. We can also look at, let's see, count obstacle. All right, so there's some that are common, some that are rare, and that might have something to do with the stage. There's round, stage. Okay, yes. So one thing I can think of from here, all right, so we say like salmon ladder, warped wall. Okay, there's not like I mean, there are a few graphs we can make. Of course, we're going to make count. Let me see the obstacle. Just looking for a second of what the so. All right, so one thing that these are is that like it looks like in each location there's like a sequence of, okay, here's the, let's take a look at one of them. I'm understanding what data we have to work from. Yep, the story is that there's like, oh, okay, and there's one for each season. In season 1, the qualifying went quintuple steps, rope swing, rolling barrel, jumping spider, pipe slider, warped wall. Then quintuple steps, rope swing, rolling barrel, and so on. The ordering here is relevant, which is why we see obstacle order here. And then you reach the semi-final, there's qualifying and then semifinals. Actually, that's worth confirming. Round, stage. Looks like there's qualifying, semifinals, then there's qualifying regional city, finals, regional city, and then there's 4 stages of the national finals, which I'm going to guess are in Vegas. And that location, yeah. And I'm not going to sort them anymore. Yeah, the story is that, like, here we go. Aha. All right, so the story is that in, let's say, Miami, there are ones in the finals, then sorry, in the qualifying, and then in the finals. And those are regional city. But there's also ones like Venice that are qualifying and semifinals, and then qualifying regional city and finals regional city. I think the story is that there's like a sequence of these. I don't know the clearest sense, yet of the difference between regional city and between like qualifying in the regional city and just overall qualifying, like what the difference between these two is, but I'm guessing it's something to do with the season. Let's take one more look at Venice, and it looks like, see, there's qualifying, and then semifinals, and then season 5, there's qualifying regional city, finals regional city, and so on. So maybe Venice became like a qualifying round or something along those lines. Okay, so I'm understanding a little bit more on this. All right, then the, let's see. Okay. The other question that I'm going to have is within each season. So, all right. So, a couple of things I'm going to think about. All right. One is within each season and location and stage, how many obstacles are there? And from that, I'm kind of curious in terms of like what's the distribution of the number of obstacles. So it's like, for example, in the national finals in Sasuke 23, in the national finals, there's, let's see, you start with like how many rounds are in a stage. This would be the way that I would be asking that in a season, location, round, stage. How many are there? And the other thing I can do is ask this in terms of fill equals round stage. And I can say, here we go. I did count, yeah. So the question is, in a finals round, regional city, there are 10, or I'm gonna clean this up just a little bit. Scale X continuous, breaks are 1 to 10. And yeah, so the story here is that in the national final stage 4 is made up of either 1 or 2 obstacles, that semifinals are made up of 6 or rarely 7. The national final stage 2 looks like it's this dark green, and stage 2 is 6, stage 3 is 7 or 8, stage 1 is 9. Okay, so I'm actually going to break this down based on the national. I'm going to start just with filter, string detect, stage, national, because I'm just trying to understand the rules a little bit before I think about what graphs I want to make. And yeah, the story is that there's like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. There's a little bit of variation here, but this is like the number of and the number of obstacles. There's a little variation here in the nationals, and then in the non-nationals, there's either generally 6 in the qualifying. I see very few in like qualifying that aren't regional city. Let's actually confirm that. If I did count round, yeah, qualifying. Okay, one thing I'm getting a sense of is that qualifying versus qualifying regional city might not be like that different. That maybe they just called it qualifying in most of them are regional city. So I'm actually going to drop the regional city from them in a cleaning step. I feel like there's not a difference here. We'll have to confirm that later. But the stage is string replace. Nope, string remove. Round stage. Need parentheses or need escaping for the round stage. Look at how that makes it simpler to work with. And then I can do something like, yeah, so it's like qualifying, finals, semifinals. So there aren't a lot of semifinals. Is that right? That there are only 27. Mostly there's qualifying, finals, and then nationals. Okay, so that's something I'm learning. Qualifying, semifinals. Okay. I like to look for like the common things, ignore the rare things. It's like qualifying versus finals is definitely one direction that we can go with this. I'm curious about other things. I'm curious about like what are ones that tend to appear in qualifying, what are ones that tend to appear in finals. I can say something like, if I ignore the other ones, I can say in qualifying, because those are the two most common. Qualifying finals, count, and then I can say count, round, stage, obstacle, name. So like the final, lots of finals at the salmon ladder, lots of finals at the warped wall. And I'd say, are there some, so every obstacle sounds like it's a little bit different, but I can ask a question like, I can ask a question about like, are there obstacles that are more common in finals versus qualifying? The way that I do that is with the tidyLO package, tidy log odds, developed by Julia Silge, and that would be something like bind log odds. The set is the round stage, the feature is the obstacle name, and the term is n. So I can say arrange descending log odds weighted. So I can say something like, okay, the finals are much more likely to contain the salmon ladder than the qualifying round, and the qualifying round is more likely to contain the warped wall, mega wall, warped wall / mega wall, which I guess is different than the warped wall and the mega wall, but the qualifying is also more likely to contain the warped wall and the floating steps. I can turn this into a visualization. I can say group by round, stage. What should I do? No, I can do this in a couple ways, but I'm actually going to say, I'm just thinking through, there's only 2 stages that I'm looking at here. Why don't I say filter round stage? That makes it just a little easier because I can look at like what are the top and the bottom. I can say top n 12 by absolute value of log odds weighted, and find the ones that are most in each direction. I'm going to go 16, and then visualize it instead as being log odds weighted, obstacle name, geom call. I neglected to do a obstacle name is FCT reorder, log odds weighted, and get a by log n log. Oh no, sorry about that. I need to say reorder this by this, and you get like a likely, more or less likely finals. Yeah, we can do something like this where we say, okay, the salmon ladder is unusually common in the finals. The warped wall and floating steps are unusually unlikely. That's one way that we can kind of visualize this. We could have used the other. I'm doing this because I noticed that the round stage is like much more often the finals of the qualifying. So I'm more interested in comparing those two than comparing some of the others that seem to be rare and only occur in, let's say, early seasons or something like that. Okay, so we could do more in terms of when do obstacles happen. Actually, I've got one more obstacle, when do obstacles happen question, which is, let's filter just for round stage is qualifying. And group by the, I'm really curious, obstacle name, summarize, what's the average position? Are there obstacles that appear more often earlier on or later? And say also n rounds is the number of rounds they appear in. I usually want to be descending by that. The story is I want to ask, like, are there obstacles that occur early in a round versus late? But I'm only going to care about the ones that often appear. So here's an example. This is pretty nifty. We can really see that warped wall on average appears around position 6. Floating steps and quintuple steps appear in position 1. The warped wall is very common at 6. Jump hang is common around, not that common, but when it happens, it tends to be around 4. Quad steps happens around, it looks like it always happens at 1. I think, okay, so it's like, and what's the, my other question then is, what's the total number of rounds that appear here? If I look at round stage qualifying count, season, and location, there are 41. So the general story is that like, and just to check, there aren't any cases where the same obstacle appears twice, are there? No, that's good. Okay, so I can say n rounds is, what I can then say is Ninja Warrior distinct season, location, and row. And that tells me, okay, there are 41 rounds. And then I can say something like PCT rounds. I like to do something like this where I say is n rounds over, you know how I can do this? Yeah, I'll leave it like this for now. No, I'm not going to leave it like this for now. What I'm going to actually do is something different. I'm going to say in qualifying or semifinals. No, finals was the other common one. What I want to know is like, what does a typical qualifying or final round look like? And I want to actually throw in a season location, united from season and location dot remove is false. I want to add a remove is false. I want to add a season location column so that then I can say group by round stage, and then I can say total, and then I can say total rounds are n distinct season location. Why would I do n distinct when I can just say, no, I do need to do that. Yes. Okay, cool. I have to say the number of distinct ones. Here, let me make this a little bit bigger. So there are 41 qualifying rounds and 38 final rounds. So that gives me a total. Why is that relevant? Well, because now I can say, let's group by obstacle name and the, let's see, I can do divided by first of total rounds. That gives me it as a percentage. I'll also need to group by round stage. So here it's like, okay, every finals contains a salmon ladder. Every finals contains a warped wall. I can tell because it's 38 for each of those. Most of the qualifying, like 85% of the qualifying rounds, include a warped wall. Now I'm getting closer to like. So this is like is some typical averages and such, and that actually gives me an idea for a visualization, which is that I want to know like what are the most common combinations, but I can do that with let's do filter for let me show what I'm talking about here. I can do first. I can say group by. Oh, it's still grouped by round stage. That's helpful. Top n 6 by n rounds. Keep the top 12 or 13 in the case of a tie. And I can say, let's graph the average position, like what happens early or late, by the obstacle name, geom point, and size is the PCT of rounds. And I'm just kind of assembling this as I go, because I'm thinking that I want to say obstacle name is FCT reorder, obstacle name by PCT rounds. I'm getting close to this kind of like dot plot because I want to facet wrap by round stage. And top ungroup before I do this, and row is 2. The other problem that I have here is that visible ladder. Oh, PCT rounds. Oh, I'll need to reorder within. So I need to say like reorder this within, and that's from tidy text. Because I want to order them individually within each. I want to try and say here's a typical path along them. And I can say reorder within these within round stage, and then add scale y reordered. scales equals free y. That's important too. I'm doing something wrong because obstacle name is reorder within. Here we go. The obstacle name, percent rounds, round stage. Anyone see what my bug is? The warped wall is still popping up on both of them. Reorder within. Yep, that's right. That it's this. That's obstacle name. Reorder this by the other three. Yep, that is the way that this is working. What the question I have is, oh, I'm doing it by PCT rounds. I'm not doing it by average position. That was what I was looking for. I was looking to do it to order it something like this. Okay, so this is pretty solid. Let me add a little bit more here. Scale X continuous. Breaks are 1 to 10. So this is like a little bit more helpful. It's like, and now I can clean this up. Average position within the obstacle course. Could have done this as a box plot instead of doing the average. That would probably both of them would be pretty good. The general story is like, what do we see? We see that the qualifying tends to start with floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps. The finals tend to start with floating steps or quintuple steps. Let me increase the number here so we have a little more variation, like see what types of things we start with. This is kind of neat. Look at this. It's like, okay, then often the second thing is a log grip. The third thing, there's one thing we see is fairly common around this stage was a jump hang. Warped wall and salmon ladder tend to occur at about position 6. The finals we saw were like typically 10 rounds. So it often ends with a spider trap, spider climb, invisible ladder, elevator climb, cargo climb. So this is a way we can look at like progression across these. Here I'm going to say drop this, and size is percent of courses. So I'm calling it percent of rounds, but it's really kind of percent of the courses that use this. And yeah. So so this is like showing us it's a progression. If I did a little bit more, if I sliced a little bit more, do I get any more like detail? I just get kind of a lot of rare things that can occur at these stages. I'm not sure I'm like, I don't know, you know, we were kind of like messing with this kind of thing. Like this is one way to look at it. Here's an alternative way to visualize it that I've just been thinking about looking at this. I care about like, I'm trying to say, oh yes, this first step breaks down to floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps. But I might want a little bit more like detail than that. I might want, for instance, I might want to actually say like, let's focus in on that breakdown. Let's not focus in on, let's not focus on like as on average early. Let's focus on what is it first round typically. I've got an idea for that, and it's a it's what's called it's an area plot would probably be about the term for it. It's I guess a stacked bar plot sort of. Let's take a look at what we're thinking of. So the yeah, the first thing we can do is we can say count. I'm going to start just with doing this on qualifying just to simplify things, and then say count obstacle name, obstacle order, and now it's like, okay, every one we have, oh, and let's also mutate obstacle name is FCT lump. The obstacles, take the rare obstacles, put them into, and categorize them into other, and then we'll graph the obstacle order. Fill is obstacle name, and this will be, let's start with N, and make it a stacked bar plot. So this gives more of a sense of like, okay, this really gives a sense of that first step. Y is number of courses. And notice here I can kind of say, okay, I can drop, one of them was 7, but that's not actually like important. And this is the so what do qualifying rounds look like? The problem is the middle ones are really, really, really common, this other kind of level. So I might want something like this, show the breakdown, show a few more. It's still not really, still not getting across. It's like, okay, there's a lot of variation there at the 5th step. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, after counting, reorder the obstacle name is FCT reorder obstacle name. There's actually, no, I need to do this before the count, otherwise it gets a little bit complicated, because what I want to say is reorder the obstacle name by the by the obstacle order. So like the early ones, the late ones. Aha, see now it's like, okay, it starts with floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps. It moves on to log, grip, rolling log, and, log, grip, rolling log, and jump hang, then a bunch of other, then it goes on to like bridge of blades, spinning log, something else, the jump hangs. Fifth is a real wild card, can be anything, ends with either the warped wall or the warped wall mega wall. Here I'm going to say filter for obstacle order less than, okay, I'm actually going to do something else. I'm going to say add count, because I want this to work for finals too. So I'm going to do finals. Here we see a breakdown. There's almost always 10 steps, sometimes it's 9. But yeah, what I'm going to do is going to say add count obstacle order and round stage. There must be at least, this is saying 41 qualifiers reach this stage, so that can be kept. Excuse me, oh nope, this didn't work at all. Name round stage total. Round stage total. The problem is if I leave it in an N, it's going to count, it's going to try and weight it. I just want to get rid of that 7, and I want to do it in a principled way. So yeah, so this is like, okay, what does a typical so this would be something like, what does a typical qualifying course look like? And so we're kind of like breaking it down into these groups, and this kind of makes me realize, they're all the same size. I don't want to, I don't want N, I want N over round stage total, which I can throw into the count and get it out of the percentage. Y continuous labels equals percent. Now I'm getting closer to like, because that's really critical of this. Like, okay, a qualifying round has these 6 stages, 6, so I want to say breaks are 1 to 6, has these 6 stages. I'm also going to say width. Can I say on this width equals 1? Does that look any better? Maybe. I don't know. Like, it's kind of neat how it's like connected. Maybe. I don't know. I think I might like it a tiny bit more. And color equals obstacle. Y is percent of courses. Step. Oops, it's fill, not color. So this shows like a distribution of typical qualifying courses. One of the things we see here is that 5 is really, so like our conclusions are, always starts with, always starts with floating steps, with either floating, quad, quintuple steps. Always ends with warped or mega wall. That's one thing we learned. It also looks like those are the only places that those happen. So it's like if someone's putting together a qualifying course, they know it starts with steps, ends with a wall, and they're just filling in the middle. It looks like there's one other in here. Maybe, I'm not sure. It could be mega wall or something, but it's only like 1 or maybe 2 others. We learned that the common second step include log grip, rolling log. No wait, rolling log is, yeah, there's those 2. So this is actually the most common second steps. Most common third step is, we know it's most common because it only appears in this step, is bridge of blades. Most common fourth step is the jump hang. Fifth is a wild card. No very common ones appear there. What do I mean by very common? They appear as often as like bridge of blades does overall. So it's like Yeah, and see if I did like, if I change this just a little bit, I get a lot of rare ones that kind of just pop up and just not amazing here. Like, you know, it's not like like this ends up being really uninterpretable. So it's kind of the best that I can do is to say, let's lump together the top 10. What do you think of this visualization? I kind of like it. I like it shows progress. This is kind of visualization I don't make a lot. Uh, yeah, there's a few things we learned about the way that they put these together. I'm going to turn into a function because I want to do it on, let's see, visualize steps. I want to turn into a function because I want to do it on qualifying, and then I want to do it on visualize steps. And if I do it on, if I do that, I'm going to want to drop this because it'll need to be next. That's good. And then I can say something like, okay, that's one. And the second one is, what is typical finals course look like? So there are 10 steps in a finals course. What we learn is it also always starts with steps: archer, floating, quad, quintuple. And then it goes on to, now other is this green one. I wonder if I should give it a gray or something like that. But yeah, then then log grip is common for the second. We can see that the salmon, I think that's salmon ladder. Yeah. Oops, and I'll need, let me make this 10. I don't think it'll affect the other one. So finals, what we learn is that always starts with archer, floating, quad, quintuple steps. Always ends with elevator. It's either elevator or spider climb, spider trap, occasionally cargo climb. This might also be the ones that had only 9 rounds. We didn't actually look into those. So it could be that it ended with the cargo climb. Occasionally cargo climb, but we knew those are rare, so I'm not going to focus on them. Almost always has a salmon ladder around step 7. Okay, so that's kind of fun and interesting. I like these kinds of visualizations a little bit more than the I like that these are a little bit more than the last one we did. The one thing I want to note is we have an option here. Somebody points out that this is tough to follow if you're colorblind. In fact, it's kind of tough to follow overall because like you got to look here and then look here. Another option we have is faceting. We can facet wrap by the obstacle name, and leave in this scales can be fixed, and drop the legend. It's I think like it's not as easy to say, okay, the 10th step is broken out into these, but it does kind of give give an understanding of what's going on here. It's like, okay, archer steps, floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps, or how you kick it off. A log grip is what's next. Jump hang is a common like step 4. They're not that common. Step 4. There's a whole block of others. The warped wall is, I missed that the warped wall is common at 6. The salmon ladder is common at 7. And it often ends with the car climb, elevator climb, invisible ladder, spider climb, spider trap. So it's another way we can look at it, is this kind of fascinating. I don't think this is so pretty. I would like tweet it, or I would publish it, but I think it does help me understand the distribution here. Though now that I'm thinking about it, another way to do that, drop the counting, and I'm copy pasting just because it's got some. Let's look at filter, round stage. Let's say finals. Another way to do that is a box plot. So I drop the count, I geom box plot. In a box plot, I'm going to look at the obstacle order, and on the y-axis goes the obstacle name. I don't need to fill in this one. I've probably usually this happens when I forgot a yeah, here it is, Ninja Warrior. Let's see what I missed. Oh yes, here it is. The X is fine. The Y, this is no longer a percentage. Yeah, so this actually kind of gets the idea across that it's archer steps, floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps, then log grip. Jump hang is usually for other warped wall. It doesn't focus near, so it says like when they occur, they tend to occur at specific points. One thing it doesn't focus nearly as much on is how common these are. So if I did this visualization, I probably would do something where I say add count obstacle name. Name is obstacle total. And then I do a step where I'd say, I'd probably do that after these two. And then I'd say mutate obstacle is, and then what I'd do is I'd say glue, library glue, obstacle name. I do this a lot. I felt like I saw a way to do this like a standard way, and then I forgot what it was, but I like using glue for it. Obstacle total. So here it's like, okay, how many rounds have this? So it's like, okay, the archer steps, floating steps, quad steps, quintuple steps, then log grip, then jump hang, then there's other, which has a number, which says the warped wall, the salmon ladder, the and ends with the spider trap. So this is another way to visualize. I like this more than that earlier graph I did. So they did the averages because it really communicates. Okay, the warped wall is usually one value. Sometimes it's here. So this is not too bad. We have other ways we could visualize this, but I can also try qualifying. And yeah, so it's like these when a step. So what we're mostly learning for this is when a step happens, it is common for it to be to be very specific to one stage when that step does happen. Okay, so that was the analysis of the order. I have a little more than 20 minutes, and I'm going to get a question that Mowgli asked that I think is a really good one, which is there data on how difficult an obstacle is or how often it got past? Now there isn't in this data, but that is exactly what I want. What I am interested in knowing. I wonder if there's a way to use web scraping to learn that. So first, these are the obstacles, but the question is, does the Wikipedia contain like a list of episodes and how they turned out or anything like that? See, this is showing like, by the way, you can actually see, when I said, look at this, that they changed slowly over time. That was something that I actually hadn't visualized, was that in early seasons, and we can go back and we can do this. It's like, okay, the shrinking steps were always in, if I looked at this, we're always in like, we're in later seasons. It flipped from quad steps to quintuple steps to floating steps to shrinking steps. Similarly, it flipped from warped wall to warped wall / mega wall. So that was one thing that I learned from this. I could make a graph that looked at it over time. Maybe still will, but it's a good question of, does this site Sasukepedia have anything on an episode level? It's a blast watching me check out fandom websites. It's very, well, you got what you pay for, right? Let's see, the, content page, okay. Content pages. I'm trying to just get to like one. Okay, so this is American Ninja Warrior. Do we have anything like an episode? Look at this. I have some results. Haha! Ha ha ha! So this is like in season 1. Oh, this is American Ninja Warrior. I might be looking for the original instead. I'm trying to find like an article about season 1 or something like that. Go back 1. Let me see list of American Ninja Warrior obstacles. If I do, oh, this is in American Ninja Warrior. Okay. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Sorry, I've been looking all over the place. This is. Going back 1. Okay, American Ninja. All right. Yeah, so I think this is the one but this is showing timed completions in the semifinals. See, it doesn't. It tells me what the obstacles are. So one thing this doesn't seem to include that would have been neat is it doesn't include the when did somebody lose. Oh goodness. It's completing the first challenge of the heat exhaustion. Oof. Okay, I'm seeing. There's things like, okay, this is when the person stopped at the warped wall, the final climb. This question is, how far did they make it? All right. In 20 minutes, I'm not going to be able to parse anything from here that's going to be interesting. It would have been neat, I think, but I'm not going to parse anything, be able to parse like all these pages, grab the data. I can definitely pull some things. Wow, so in qualifying, there's no time limit. So everybody qualified, and this is in minutes. Maybe it's in minutes or maybe it's in seconds. I don't know. This could be in seconds. Yeah, it could probably makes more sense to be in 33 seconds. Qualifying, semifinal, and yeah, I guess you had to clear this to make it, and then results of other ones who stopped here. Yeah, I think there's interesting things here. I wonder if they have one of these for every page, or for every season. So if I said like, yeah, I bet like, for instance, I bet you could go through and say, here are the stages where each person stopped. Should we do that? Should we do something? Should we do like, I'm not going to get to any good analysis with it in 15 minutes. I'm just thinking strategically. But it's kind of interesting, right? I don't know. I'm just sort of curious, what can we do with this? Other question that I'm not sure on is is filter season equals 1. See, there's like Venice. Okay, I see. In season 1 it was Venice, and there's a season. And is that right? Is season 1 first season? Did it say location Venice? Nope, because this is not American Ninja. These are different competitions. See, this is I think where I'm learning. Where is it? Having a blast here. I guess it's in Venice. All right. Yeah, then I guess what I'll do is I'll scrape a little bit. Here it goes. American Ninja. See, I don't know the difference between like American Ninja Challenge, American Ninja Warrior. I don't know how to join it back with this data. All right, I'm gonna drop it because I think, well, it's like slightly interesting. I think there's other things we can possibly do, but that's a story at least. I wonder if there's anything else I can do with web scraping. Is there any more information I can find, for example, about these obstacles? So like, if I want to learn about something like the salmon ladder, which is really common to appear. second stage obstacle. Now I can get a picture, but other than that, I'm not learning much. And I don't have a way immediately to get a picture into some of these visualizations. So I'll skip it. Okay. So I'll look then instead at, let's look at our filter around stage is qualifying. And let's ask questions about seasons for a second. Just think about this for a second. Every season, okay, if I do obstacle order season, here's one way to do it, is I say obstacle name is FCT lump, obstacle name 6, and filter. So only include the 6-step ones. So this is another way you can visualize it. I want to reverse the y-axis, and breaks equals 1 to 12, 10? No, 12, no, 10. So what I could do here is say, okay, and this kind of actually gives a little bit more of a sense of, okay, it went from one type to another type to another type, and then ended with, like typically the warped wall at these stages. I can still do my reordering. I can say obstacle name is FCT. Oh, but the other problem with this, I didn't count it. Oh no, I don't need to count it because they're unique. Oh yeah, but I can do obstacle. I can say obstacle name is FCT reorder obstacle name by obstacle order, which I will say. And here's a trick that I use sometimes. I use a second dimension. I say plus season times 0.01. Use season as a tiebreaker, basically. So it's like, okay, so it's like it started with quintuple steps, then to quad steps, then to quintuple steps, then floating steps, and then a bunch of other, then some jump hang, and so on. And one thing that shows me is I can use the color as lumped, but I could do geom text to actually fill in the information, like the name of this. This is not going to look amazing. It's certainly not going to look amazing off the bat, but let's see. Label equals obstacle name. This is not going to look great, to be clear. And, oh, yep, I can do, lumped. What I do is I use color to represent order. Yeah, believe me, you didn't believe me when I said it wouldn't look great, did you? All right, looks like there are multiple at some of these stages. Yeah, actually that is something that looks like happens, is that at the same season there's multiple locations. So I can actually go back, and I think we saw that a second ago. Graph. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to recreate this graph, and okay, there's like a region or a city. There's a location for each of these. And I don't, here's what I do. Okay, I combine them. What I do is I say, I'm trying to like basically just recreate this graph. I can say mutate season. Oh, I already had season location united, didn't I? No, I didn't use it. Season as season, and I use unite from tidyr. Sep is, look at that, 1 Venice. And then I do season, actually, yeah, then I say season is FCT reorder, season, season location. Here's what I do. FCT season, I want to reorder the season location by the season, and this way I've got this as a factor, and I use season location as the y-axis, instead of, I can drop the scale Y reverse, doesn't like that. But I am going to do FCT rev, which will reverse the order of the, yes, don't worry, I know it looks like garbage. I'm not, I'm well aware that it's going to need a little bit of work. Ah. So this kind of gets the idea, because like, okay, it went from quintuple to quad to quintuple to floating, and then the 6 steps were from warped wall, some was warped wall, mega wall. All right, so and then we have like, okay, some of them for a bit. The jump hang was popular. You know, I can drop the color. I can look for other groups if I drop the color. And I increase this a bit. Color is now just like a clue. It's not like critical to the graph. So like log group is popular for a bit, but otherwise these kind of vary up a lot. Yeah. So this is this is kind of recreating that like graphical visualization, and I can say, what do I say? I can say, I do a quick thing where I say labs, this is step, Y, I don't need the season location, and I can say scale X, continuous breaks 1 to 6. This is recreating another way to show like how has it changed over time. I also could have said things like, what is the distribution of an obstacle across time? Like maybe it turns out the rope swing was only used early on and they changed as they went on to later seasons. That's something we could totally do. Maybe I'll do it. Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. So the other thing that we'll do is we'll say, oh, and let me make this again for finals. I wanted to see if it requires any customization. So I'm not going to turn into a function quite yet. This is did not turn out amazingly. Rope swing into, oh, what I need to do is do a string truncate. That is, you see the what I'll do is I'll say obstacle name truncate obstacle name. That's from string R, super handy. I'll say truncate it to 40 characters, 40, because the problem is if it's too long, it's not going to pop up well here. Still much too long. Yeah, they're overlapping a little, but I'll make it a little shorter. I'll also change this to 10. Actually, it looks pretty good. They kind of all fit. Okay, so that shows like there's some parts that like change slowly over time. There are others that like the salmon ladder and the warped wall that at some point they got established, and then they just kept them in those positions, and the end step changed as time went on. So that's another way we can visualize this and show how it's changing. It's also, I think, like there's something interesting about these visualizations, which is they're not exactly data visualizations. Like they are, but this is sort of more information than it is data, in the sense of we're not aggregating things. We're showing every single choice, like every single data point in this visualization. But ggplot2 can still like represent that pretty well. So I just think that's something worth noting, is that ggplot2 can create visualizations like this of changes over time without and include all the text within it with just a little bit of data processing. I think that's worth noting. Last thing I'm going to take a look at is distribution over time. I'm going to do that across the round stages. I'm just maybe just say in general, we could say obstacle name is FCT FCT lump obstacle name top 10. season obstacle name. What's the distribution I want to know? What got added in early ones, late ones? Box plot's a pretty good way to look at that. And I probably want to do, yes, I want to say mutate obstacle name is FCT reorder obstacle name. So this is not about where it occurs within the obstacle. So this is where it occurs over time. And I'll say reorder this by season. And this shows that like jumping spider is kind of always, looks like it's maybe falls a little bit earlier, but like has kind of always been there. And there was some like the rolling log, the floating steps that are added only in later seasons. There's a different kind of visualization. 15. Here we go. And there are ones like the Bridge of Blades. Looks like they stopped using it around season 4, except maybe then they used it again in season 6. This is kind of some things we can learn from it. The spider climb, the floating steps. Yeah, like I could aggregate this only to the average, but I think it is kind of useful to show it as. I think it's kind of useful to show it as a box plot, and it says, okay, jump hang was mostly in season 4, for example, and then some outliers. And if I filter this to just be round stages qualifying, actually, let me do it finals. Actually, let me do it just within qualifying first. This actually shows a little bit more. This is more like the evolution of. This is the evolution of the obstacles. So it's like early seasons. Jumping bars was only early seasons. Bridge of Blades was only early seasons. Later, the warped wall occurs across many others. Naturally boring. The paddle boards, the block runs, they're things that occurred later. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. We could do a similar one. Yeah, I'm actually going to show that we can do a similar visualization where we actually to what we did before in terms of counting. Here I go. I'm going to say obstacle name season. Oops, not a box plot anymore, a geom call, and not a group by season mutate. What I want to do is I want to do this as a percentage. There we go. And I ordered it by the average season. Yes, I did. Okay, which means I might want to reverse that order. I think I want to try reversing that order, see how this looks. If I say FCT rev, yeah, I might like this a tiny bit more. Let me clean it up a tiny bit before we examine it. Percent. I think it's all right. I think the challenge here is like percent of obstacles is a little odd because you can never be that many. Even if you occur in every obstacle course, you're still only a fraction of the obstacles. But it does kind of you can kind of say, okay, you read this from bottom to top, Bridge of Blades and Jump Hang were earlier on, Warped Wall, Mega Wall is late, Floating Steps is late. You can kind of read it that way. Okay, I think, yeah, this is we could do the same for finals. These are some ways of just visualizing how the obstacles changed over time. All right, in conclusion, what have we done today? Didn't need to do a lot of data cleaning. That we did talk about screen scraping, but I never actually did it. Didn't do a lot of data cleaning outside of moving regional city. We looked at the we looked a little bit at the typical lengths of these. We said, okay, qualifying is generally 6, finals are generally 10, and we used that to say we compared finals and We used a tidyLO package to compare the finals to the qualifying. We saw that salmon ladder and visible ladder tend to be in the finals, floating steps, warp wall tends to be in qualifying. Then we got to really my favorite set of visualizations were all about, are these early or late? This idea that yes, some of them are always early, some of them are always at the end, really got to this idea of this step visualization where we make it a stacked bar plot. I've also heard this called a spinogram that shows, okay, here's the composition of these across like an obstacle course. What this doesn't capture is that this composition is in fact changing over time. So to do that, we did a similar visualization, but we did it based on we did some similar visualizations based on like, okay, the y-axis is now the season, and the each of these fields is an obstacle. This season, this step is this obstacle. Hopefully, you learned a couple of tricks from this. I did a ton of reordering, but also and a ton of lumping. But I also did use some things like string trunk. To keep the string short, I did some customizations of the x and y axes to make these work a little, more visible, and yeah, took a look across these. All right, that concludes our look at the Ninja Warrior. If you enjoyed today, please do remember to subscribe. I hope you had fun. I certainly did. I'll see you next week.